June 11th, 1999.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
But first, we want to head to the news desk. And Ann Curry. Ann, good morning.
Good morning to you, Katie and Matt. Good morning, everybody. Some serious news to get to. Chicago can no longer arrest people for hanging out in its effort to fight street gangs. That's the ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday. NBC's Jim Avila reports.
But the court ruled that Chicago's ordinance banning gang members from hanging out on street corners is unconstitutional, even if effective. 45,000 arrests in 3 years. Pastor Jeff Haynes fought for the law to clean up his neighborhood, terrorized by gangs.
The United States Supreme Court made a terrible mistake today.
The court majority found that Chicago gave too much discretion to police and not enough notice to citizens who use public streets. Both the NAACP and ACLU fought the ordinance on those grounds.
And extraordinarily talented theme, tremendously troubled, Robert Downey Jr. faces his drug demons in a courtroom again today. Should Hollywood continue to embrace this fallen star?
Mr. Downey, I want to tell you, this is not a gift of the court. This is going to be hard work. It can provide a tremendous benefit to you and to the public as well. But you're going to have to work at it. If you choose not to work at it, if you choose to allow yourself to fail in this program, then the consequences will be severe to you and possibly to the public as well.
Robert Downey Jr. has remained a fixture on primetime television, and not everybody's happy about that. With us now from Washington is Bill McCall, Director of Legislative Affairs for the Lynn Smith Center and Drug Policy Foundation. And also with us in Chicago is the Reverend Jeff Haynes. He's Executive Director of the Reach Out and Touch organization. My thank you to both of you gentlemen for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Should Robert Downey Jr. be allowed to go back on TV?
I certainly think so, Rick. It's a chronic recurring disease that he's got, and we would not, for example, assume that Dick Cheney with his heart problems couldn't go back to work. What he needs is a supportive environment, and actually there's a lot of opportunities out in Hollywood that can provide him that.
But what kind of message is that sending, Reverend?
Well, first of all, you can't compare Dick Cheney to an individual that has been involved in criminal activity since recorded as of early as 1996. One thing that our viewers must realize that Robert Downey Jr. has been arrested repeatedly. He was caught with a firearm in his vehicle, and the message today that the judge sent, especially when he said to Robert Downey Jr. that this is not a gift. Well, that's truly what it was. It was a gift. And I think what we need to do across this country, we have to, across this country,
I certainly don't think that's true.
Set one set of standards. If Mr. Downey deserved this chance, I'm not saying individuals don't deserve chances. Well, we need to today open up the floodgates to minorities and low-income prisoners and let them all out. I service thousands of people that are incarcerated for having firearms. There's individuals that are incarcerated that have done way less. Every penal institution today, not tomorrow, needs to open up the
Reverend, hold on before we all end up talking at the same time. Reverend, you've made your point. Go ahead. Hold on, Reverend. Reverend. Hold on just there. I think you've made your point. Go ahead, Mr. McCall.
Well, I understand that the carrying of the firearm with the cocaine is a felony. However, at the same time, what is going on is that the high volume of this case is just turning it up. I actually think that there are an awful lot of people in the inner cities who are receiving very similar kinds of treatment.
Reverend, you probably have some experiences from the inner city. Why don't you chime in? Reverend?
Well, there's definitely double standards, and there's double sets of laws, double sets of rules for the have and have-nots. If we are familiar recently with President Bush instituted some legislation, well, he followed through on some Clinton legislation where now 34,000 college students will be banned from getting financial aid if they have any any occurrences with drugs.
And that's
These
absolutely
are
wrong.
middle class, they're lower income individuals. Only the lower income and minorities are paying the price for the drug war.
I
think our
absolutely
country is
agree.
too lenient. We need to get tougher. We don't need to spend $660 million California is spending to rehab some of these individuals. I believe prevention rehab dollars need to be available, but prior to the conviction. Everybody in prison finds religion, or everybody, you know, that goes to jail says they're not going to do it again. We need to spend these dollars in prevention. When these individuals get caught, they need to be willing to pay the price. I have buried
I agree
so
with
many,
Reverend Haynes actually about several of these points here.
Robert Downey Jr.
One of the things
when
that's
he had
going
that
on
pistol in his car,
is that
all right, Reverend.
he had that pistol for.
Reverend, go ahead and give Mr. McCall a shot here.
He was going to use that pistol. Someone could have been killed.
Reducing gang violence in Toledo is the principal objective of city officials, educators, and parents. Today, community leaders gathered to discuss new ways of dealing with the growing problem. City Councilman C. Allen McConnell hosted a crime workshop. The guest speaker, a former gang member turned preacher, the Reverend Jeffrey Haynes of the Reach Out and Touch organization in Chicago.
To put an emphasis on education and provide tangible alternatives to the negative ills that plague our communities. Our children have been victimized by society neglect.
The Reach Out and Touch program originated in Chicago to help inner city residents. The Reverend Haynes travels to communities nationwide to share his ideas.
On Chicago's South Side, a 10-year-old gunned down while riding his birthday bike. The federal crime bill didn't come in time to save Jamone Ross, and his young friend wonders if it will protect him.
Can we stop crime?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No? Why?
It's too violent.
To stay clear of violence, thousands of Southside youngsters belong to this teen center, where they have more faith in prayer than in proposals from Congress like 3 strikes and you're out.
If these criminals and thugs want to gangbang and sell dope, they should be willing to pay the penalty for that. I don't think an individual deserves 3 chances. I think 1 time is too many.
Also, Chicago street experts say punishment has to be balanced by prevention programs like this center.
For the kids of this community, the crime bill now is only talk until they see and feel a greater sense of security on the street. Until then, this program is their best, perhaps their only defense.
Congress proposes $9 billion for prevention programs. But will some of it trickle down to these youngsters who have to play in an open patch of grass flanked by heavy traffic because the park is too dangerous?
That's incarceration out there. Those kids are incarcerated right now in that little pave of grass. It's ridiculous.
What do you want out of life?
Peace. And everyone to get along.
That simple idea is not in the federal crime bill. What is gets mixed reviews from Chicago insiders who want a better guarantee that violent criminals stay in jail after the first strike and better prevention for at-risk kids so they'll make it past their 10th birthday.
So, Father, I just thank you for protecting these youngsters, Father.
Dawn Pertangelo, NBC News, Chicago.